Welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted to be joined in this week's show by Record Sports' Graeme Young and Record Sports' Greg Swan. How's it going, guys?
Hi, Daniel.
Yeah, great, mate. Very good.
Excellent. It's lovely to be joined by you both. It's obviously International Week, but still plenty going on at Celtic. As I was preparing for this, I was kind of thinking to myself, it's actually impressive how much of a mess Celtic have made of things in the last few weeks, Swan. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that from the sort of chain of events that have taken place since the start of pre-season training and the sort of optimism and the hopes of the Celtic supporters when they came back for the new season on the back. Obviously, the Scottish Cup final was a disappointment, losing that at Hampden on the final day, but there was still optimism with a renewed bid at the Champions League and, you know, the prospect of what players would be coming in. It's been incredible what has transpired over the first sort of 6 weeks since the competitive ball has come out and also just basically since the start of pre-season. Basically, I think the first pre-season game, as we alluded to last week, against Queen's Park was the day when it was confirmed that Nicholas Kuhn was away. And ever since then, it's just absolutely snowballed. And right now, the Celtic supporters are in an uproar and it's perfectly understandable. They've got every right to be.
Since the last Celtic podcast went out, obviously the now infamous transfer statement was released on Saturday night by the Celtic hierarchy, with no name on it, of course. But Graeme, what did you think generally of the statement itself?
I probably felt like most people viewing it, just shocked, surprised. I think you always hear the famous quote for Batman, exactly. If you live yourself long enough, you see yourself become. I've absolutely butchered that Daniel quote. But you had the quote at the bottom.
It's we know the one you mean.
That was like George Bush. Fool me once, you go. But you get the premise, and I think it is true. It's that's the type of statement that would have been met with sniggers of laughter within Celtic Park that it came from a rival club. It wasn't focused. There was no the UEFA stuff. Just opened up a can of worms that nobody was really. That wasn't the crux for supporters. And it just kind of Swanee made the point. It's been a chain of events, and to me, that's. This is part of that. It's such the timing when it went out as well. Saturday night time. I think people in our industry, people even now are so switched on. They understand that's maybe a time to try and sneak out a statement like that. And for supporters, it's just left more questions than answers. And it's the direction of travel of the club where it's you talk about ambition and trying to progress. Everything in that statement felt very dated and old time, and there was no answers, was it? It was very much these are the issues and this is why. Like, people are looking for solutions. They pay enough money to get answers to people that make the decisions at the club, and it was lacking. It's just opened up another vacuum here where it's just more recriminations have followed. It's everything that could have gone wrong in the last couple of weeks of the transfer window. The performances in the pitch against Almaty were toothless, same as Ibrox, followed by the strangest of business into a statement like this, and it's the recipe for a summer that Celtic fans are a start of the season they couldn't have imagined in a million years. It was completely caught everyone off guard.
It was everything about it, Swanee, everything about the statement. I mean, even the really childish sort of veiled dig at Rangers, like, it'd have been better just saying absolutely nothing than putting out a statement like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's absolutely it. I mean, Celtic, we spoke about this previously. They had to come out and speak properly. We did suspect it would be something done through the club's official channels, but there was probably a hope that it might be something that was done by somebody putting their face to somebody and sitting to something and putting their face on club TV or something like that. But for it to come out the way it did was just another massive slap in the chops to the Celtic fans, I'm afraid. And they haven't taken it well, and nor should they. And as you say, failed digs to Rangers and stuff like that. This is just. It's gone way past that for Celtic supporters. If people inside the club think that's what the majority of Celtic fans are basing their barometer of the club on, they're miles out of touch. If that's what they think, miles out of touch, because it's not like that. You might have a few, but it is a few now. Yeah. Celtic fans have got their eyes on other things. Chris Sutton touched on this at the beginning of last season, that winning the league just might not be enough for Celtic fans because Rangers were in such a state that they didn't want to be looking across the fence. They wanted to be seeing how the club were progressing. Dragging it back to things like that, it's just that's insulting the intelligence of a number of Celtic fans, I would say.
And there's something about the statement as well. it's and the thing you made about the Vale dig, it really stuck in my head. I remember Dermot Desmond came out 2022, at a kind of the club in-house just before Ange was about to win the first title in a season that didn't look likely. And there was a dig about Rangers and we'll never be liquidated and that won't be us. And there's even then it jarred, and that was on the basis of just going for a title that probably in a season that many felt was a rebuilding season. And I think that's what makes it so galling, that these quips and little asides at your rivals, it doesn't add up. It's so much bigger than that, and it's comparing yourself, like Swanee said, to the teams on your level in Europe. But to think that'll cut it in a time when true answers are sought, I think maybe is worrying as anything at the club, that there's no real understanding of the true anger that's obviously among Celtic fans at present.
5 words spring to mind: concentrate on your own business.
Exactly. And aside from anything else, it's just really classless. It doesn't even matter if you're doing brilliantly. To throw stuff about like that, just it was disappointing. But you mentioned Chris Sutton there, Swanee. I watched last week's Celtic podcast. He was obviously on it with yourself and Michael Gannon. You guys talked about Brendan Rodgers, how his future might be impacted by this. I mean, obviously that was before the statement came out. I mean, I don't even know where this will leave him. I don't know where his head will be at. It must be very difficult for him at the minute to kind of work, not just with the statement. I mean, we saw stories. It looked as though someone from inside Celtic was briefing against them. I mean, what will he be thinking right now?
Difficult to say. Yeah, you would have thought they would be having some time for reflection and trying to figure out where he's going next. But I saw some training footage from, it looked like it was Monday morning at Lennoxtown, because Kelechi Iheanacho was in it, I believe. And Brendan was there and looked jovial enough and cuddling his players and smiling away. So he's obviously back to business and back into work. So I guess the next thing all we can do is wait and see what he's got to say on Friday when he does his pre-match stuff before the Kilmarnock game. But the images that we've seen from Celtic, and it's forgive me if I've got this wrong, but I would suspect it's unusual for training footage to come out from a Monday morning. So it was clearly just letting that be seen that it was back out there on the training pitch. So we'll just have to wait and see what he says on Friday, I guess.
And as Swanee says there, Graeme, I mean, I've put that photo up again. He did look particularly delighted to see Kelechi Iheanacho. Obviously, we can't show the clip, but a couple of the stills. And it's almost, I kind of took from that, it was almost that Brendan Rodgers is trying to say, look, I'm absolutely fine, job in hand, focused on the game at the weekend, as he usually does. Yeah,
that's fair. I do feel like anything, it's all stages, isn't it? So that burning anger that maybe is felt among supporters, people inside the club, the way the transfer window, emotions can shift quickly. So what was previous maybe annoyance can be used as a positive. I'm not trying to turn it down to this could be any kind of positive trans, but what I mean is someone of Brendan Rodgers, an operator like him, he'll want this, and there's every chance this is the last season, not signing a new contract. He could use this not to his benefit, but just find a way. He needs to find an edge, and that's the one thing that was lacking in both the Almaty games at Rangers. It's not about shape, is it? That stuff like formations and shape go out the window. It's about being on it, and when Celtic are on it, a Brendan Rodgers team, he saw for much of last season, the overlap in the way they move. It's something that I think he takes a great pride in how Celtic are playing at that level, and that's obviously been missing. So he needs to be able to find an edge with this squad. If it's a backs to the wall, a motivational speech, there'll be something to turn it, because it can't be a season like this. Like there was obviously the season during COVID where the whole thing was a disaster, but Celtic by trade either dominate for a season or they have their ups and downs. It won't be all this one pace. So that he's got to find me Iheanacho, the new signings. I think Revel would be maybe not quite the word, but he'll find a way of turning it around, because if it is the end of his time at Celtic, I don't think he wants to go out. The Aberdeen Scottish Cup final last year was a tough. I think Swanee made the point earlier that it wasn't obviously what you'd expect a response, and it hasn't happened so far this season. So I wouldn't write him off using it for his benefit, but he'll have to find, much I'm talking about, it's about the ability to the style of football. You will have to find a better way with these players, because there's issues on the right hand side. I know Yang, James Forrest, both have got their flaws where Yang could have been out of the club. James Forrest is an age where he can't play every week. He's got to find one of these left wingers in a different position, but I'm sure he'll be able to do that, because that's what he gets paid to, and he will want to go out with a real flourish at the end.
There's two issues at play here, I think. First of all, on Brendan Rodgers, Daniel, I think that two things must have happened, or there's one or two things must have happened. Either one, Brendan Rodgers had a full and frank discussion with the hierarchy over Sunday and Monday morning to iron a few things out, or two, he's just decided to completely blank out everything that's going on away from his players and just concentrating on training and being with the players, and that's it. Now, he's not going to be able to blank that out when he faces the questions on Friday, but you get what I'm saying, don't you? He's maybe just decided, well, okay, that's it, I'm just concentrating on the players for now. The other thing I would add is, I've heard some sort of mention of the fact that, these things can blow over, and, if Rangers drop points to Hearts and Celtic win, and this will disappear very quickly. No, it won't. No, it won't. This is different. There's been disappointing transfer windows in the past. People have been upset with one or two things, and then a couple of results usually, or a big win or something, and it tends to blow it away. I don't think this one's going anywhere. This one's going to linger, because if the Celtic fans are what we're hearing, about people not taking up packages for the Europa League and things like that, it just drags it all the way through to December. Because every time you come to a Europa League game and there's a half-empty stadium, it just brings it all back again. So this one isn't going away. This isn't like the normal ones what we've seen in the past, like I say, or ones that we've seen, not normal ones, because that makes it sound like happen every year. What I mean is, there's been some troubled times in the past, but a few results have kind of blown it away, and Celtic have got on with it, and it's kind of frittered into the background. I don't see that happening this time. I think the depth of feeling amongst the Celtic supporters is so deep that they're not letting this one go, and it's not going to be just a couple of weeks and a win over Kelly here and another win over somebody else there. This is a long-term thing now for the Celtic fans. They want something to happen, and they want answers. And we know from the past, from those of us that are old enough to remember, back to the days when Celtic supporters set their mind to something, they're usually quite good at getting it.
Aye, no, I think you're spot on. The other thing as well is that, look, I guess I'm putting you on the spot here, but any concerns that Rodgers won't finish the season?
You don't know what's going. We don't know what's going to happen from week to week at the moment. Well, you're asking for a prediction of what we're going to get to next May. You couldn't believe 3 weeks ago what's happened now. Who knows what's going to happen? And that's not me sitting on the fence. I just genuinely, you don't know what way this is going to swing, what way it's going to turn. You don't know what statement, who's going to speak next, what's going to be said. We don't know. So
at
this exact moment in time, judging by those pictures that we saw from the training pitch yesterday, it looks like he's happy enough. If he's going to be happy after everything that's happened in the past month, then it's going to take something really serious to derail him, I would have thought. But who knows? Literally, who knows?
I think it's an unholy alliance at this point, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like, they'll get by where they are. But there was a point I think someone made, and I really do agree with this, that he did the wrong thing to walk away the first time. Maybe the wrong thing is to stay this time, where it's like, it might not be best for everyone, but I feel the fact that he's promised the 3 years, unless he gets emptied, that was his line in his first play. I don't think he'll ever truly get emptied. I think his place within Celtic is too important, and I believe that, like I said there, I think there'll be an element that he's the gritty nature of who he is. I think he'll be able to just hunker down and just get on in less ideal circumstances. And it's this Thursday, Sunday is the most torturous run. There's something so different, but you can gets alleviated when it's a Tuesday, Saturday. There's a different style. The Thursday, Sunday routine in a season where recriminations are high, fans are upset. It won't be easy, but my instinct is that walking away, that might benefit others, but I don't think it benefits Rodgers. In the 10 years' time, leaving Celtic twice before planned, it probably isn't best for everyone, but we'll soon find out. Swan says it would be a fool to make a prediction, even though I've just made one, but we'll soon find out.
I think it'll be interesting to see how the Celtic supporters go about with Brendan Rodgers as well, because my reading of the situation is they're firmly in his camp at this moment in time, firmly in Brendan Rodgers' camp. They wanted the same things that the manager wanted. New quality players brought in and an improvement in the squad.
Yeah.
I'll be fascinated to see how it permeates itself. If, for example, Brendan sits on Friday and gives his unequivocal backing to the board, how do the fans respond to that? Do they look at it and go, well, that's just backing what we don't want? I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think there's more layers to this. But I think right at this moment in time, the Celtic supporters are right. I can't speak for Celtic supporters or all of them or any of them. my reading of it is though that they're firmly in his corner, 100% in his corner at the moment. And had he chosen to walk away on Monday morning, I don't think any Celtic supporter would have griped with him for it, to be perfectly honest. But this is going to play out. This is going to have to play out in a certain way, because he's going to have to speak and he's going to have to give a take on it. And I suspect somebody's going to be annoyed, whether it's those in the stands or those in the comfy seats.
I don't think his play can be support of the board. Just if you're looking at it purely politically, even if you go back to January last year, he wanted the board.
And Graeme, that's the man's employers.
No, but I know, but there's no.
Can he really?
No, I know.
Who can say what they really think about their employers?
No, I know exactly. That here, and that's very topical. But I would say the fact that with Rodgers, that even this somebody's not, there's been comments along the lines of like we are aligned or so forth, but it's not been that unequivocal back, and he's very much agreed with the concerned supporters have of how business is done at the start of windows and the end. Brendan Rodgers, it just feels like the wrong play, even if he doesn't politically, everything that comes, even if he believed it, even if he was aligned with the board, I don't think he can actually utter those words, because it kills any momentum. And the real momentum, the only momentum Celtic have, Swanee, is a sense of unjust that's shared by the supporters and the managers that translates to the players. Then if he comes back aligned with the board, it kills that one element that's left, that, well, forget the board, we'll just do our own thing and win in spite of them. If you take that element away, you lose it, and there's not much to really get the club together. I think that's the one thing that I just don't see it for Brendan when he speaks on Friday. I just don't see that happening.
Well, history from the season would tell us that you're right, Graeme. He won't do that, because he's been quite open about the fact that of what he's wanted and has made the point that things have to be done. So I don't see any reason why he's going to move away from that stance. But as I say, it'll be fascinating just to see how the fans. I very much feel that the fans are with the manager and the team at the moment.
No,
and they continue to back them all the way, because that's what they've said. But I mean, you only need to look at the sort of emotions from the various supporters sections and all coming together, and no confidence stuff and all that, to know exactly where they stand in the hierarchy of the club. So two very, very separate sections of Celtic Football Club at the moment. And to go back to one of Brendan's phrases, Celtic is better when it's unified.
Swanee, to take you inside the journalist studio, so like one of these, how would you, and there's a million questions you could ask Brendan Rodgers on Friday, right? Someone like yourself who's been in a million press calls, what is the question you would want answered the most for Brendan Rodgers? If you were there on Friday, what do you think fans need to know the most? What would be the first question that you should be asked?
Probably how he feels about how it all shook down in the end. Daizen Maeda going away, the potential of someone from inside the club saying something, or whether they did or whether they didn't, that kind of thing. How do you feel about what happened last weekend, basically? Where do you stand now? Would probably be it.
I think most Celtic fans would. That would be it.
It's no rocket science. I think every Celtic fan. I don't really need to be a qualified journalist to say that. Everybody knows what it's going to be. I don't mean that to be dismissive, Graeme. But I think it's in this one. I don't think there's any nuance to what's going on Friday. I think it's pretty much straight in front of you.
Did you have one in mind, Graeme? Like maybe, just Swanee. No, I'm writing it down so I can steal it off Swanee. No, it's just well, that's no, he's right. To me as well, the reason why I asked as well there is the one that's been in my head all summer as well. I think I mentioned is that the fact is that how when he came back, the photos are all posing up the board and everyone's reconciled. To me, it's see if you could have shown Brendan Rodgers this summer when he came in, would he have came back? So even though you would give up Bayern Munich and all the praise, if you could see how it is disintegrated in your third season, would you have came back? And I think I would love to know if he would, what the answer to that would be. I think that'd be of note, just because it's, even you give up plenty of success, but was it worth it to go through this again after already doing it in a previous time?
Well,
I was looking this morning right enough at Nuno Espirito Santo and Nottingham Forest and thinking, how did he feel 6 months ago? He was the top of the world.
I know.
It's like how football changes and how incredible. You go from being carried shoulder high to your club owner storming onto the pitch to have a pop at you. It's like because you don't qualify Nottingham Forest for the Champions League. That's enough to get berated in the middle of the centre circle by your own owner. I mean, football has lost the plot officially. That's a long time ago, but it's certainly lost the plot.
I mean, on the Nottingham Forest thing, obviously Ange Postecoglou, I think, has either been confirmed or he's going to be confirmed as the new Forest manager. What are the chances, Graeme? February, Celtic, Nottingham Forest in the Europa League. I already feel like we might as well just get ready for that because it's going to happen. Yeah,
it feels like, and I think even though with Celtic all their issues, that they've got enough quality. When you look at the schedule, I think there's enough to at least make the playoff round. So there's that feels like fixtures. Well, City Ground, what a cool stadium to tick off the bucket list. There's ones that you don't, probably Villa Park would fall under that as well, and heading to Bologna as well. There's a lot of cool kind over the years that is the top 5 leagues evolve. You get these bucket list trips change as well. But I think Andrew's honest. I think he's a perfect fit for Nottingham Forest. I feel, and I know Nuno, brilliant work, but the style of player they have as well. It always felt that, bar the counter-attack games, there was a real space there for more. And listen, you careful what you wish for as well. That Nuno's such he's one of the more underrated managers in the Premier League. Just how tactically sound he is as well, and I think that's the one criticism, Ange. But it feels they'll have a good run in that tournament. I think their owner wants that, and Celtic, if they can get things right, that they should be able to get enough points to at least make the knockout. So you can imagine that Rodgers versus Ange. It'd be fun making one of those graphics, Dan. That'll be that's going to be. You probably make 10 versions. So I just feel it's going to be a game that it almost feels preordained at this point. But who knows? There might be more twists along the way.
Tune in next week for next week's edition of the Forest Hour. Brought to you.
Let's talk on that.
Let's talk Morgan Gibbs. No, I'm only kidding. This weekend, obviously, guys, on the pitch, we've talked a little bit off the pitch, but Celtic away to Kilmarnock. Tricky game, but a lot of Celtic fans will be hoping to see a couple of new faces. Obviously, Tunetke is one, the Tunisian winger. Balikwisha, we've only seen play once. Jamai Simpson-Pusey, he was in training as well in that clip that we mentioned earlier on. It'd be interesting to see if Celtic fans finally get a look at him. But the other one, guys, that I wanted to just mention is Daizen Maeda, because he obviously made the comments on Japan duty that he asked to leave Celtic, he wanted to leave, they couldn't find a replacement. In my humble opinion, he's not looked like the same player this season. He's looked distracted. I mean, hopefully he can regain that top form, but that's easier said than done, Swanee.
None of us are going to know. That's the simple fact. I mean, I think I made a point last week that it's obvious that Daizen Maeda hasn't started the season the way he finished last season, but it was dynamite. I'll say finished last season. I'm sure some people will argue that the last 3-4 games he wasn't really at his complete self either. But it's not started the season as hot as the Celtic fans would have hoped, and given the pressure that was on him in the forward positions because of what's happened with departures, he needed to be, and he's not quite been at it. Listen, only Daizen Maeda is going to be able to give us the answer to this one. I would hate to think that if Daizen Maeda has a poor game, people automatically just go, well, his head's not there. I mean, guys can have poor games. Daizen Maeda has had poor games in the past, but it strikes me as being... I just take my template from Kyogo. We were all told that Kyogo... The inference is that Kyogo wanted to go this time last year, and he didn't go, and there was no sign of him slacking off. Now, you can argue he didn't play as well as he did, or this or that, but he never shucked his work. He was always there. He was always there when needed, and he came up with big goals, and he never backed off. So that would give you no reason to think that Daizen Maeda is going to be any different. You have to remember, this is a World Cup year as well. Japan are in it. He can't afford to just vanish off the radar. I mean, I think I looked at when he played the other day. Did he come off the bench? He was a sub, so he's not starting. Yeah. So he can't. If you're not starting on the 10-minute, listen, I don't know what the Japan coach's plans were for that particular game. Maybe he was trying new faces or whatever, but. My point being, he can't just vanish off the map and suddenly not score any goals for Celtic, or he'll not be going to the World Cup. So he's got plenty of motivation to keep playing well. And listen, we talk about not knowing what's going to happen in weeks ahead, never mind months ahead. There seems to be this automatic thought process that he will leave in January. Well, I'm not sure about that either, because why would you leave then? If you've been told you've got to stay, why are you going to leave 4 or 5 months before the World Cup and completely uproot? And also that Celtic might not be in a position, judging by previous transfer windows, are they going to be in a position to let him go? So to let him go because they're not proving very adept at getting replacements in at the moment for people. So who's to suggest there's going to be one ready for January? So I don't think it's a fait accompli that he will be gone in the middle of the season. And my gut feeling will be Daizen Maeda will get back to being the player that he would. He might not hit the levels of last season because that would be pretty difficult to do. But I still think he'd be a pretty important cog in the Celtic wheel. I think the more important issues are what happens either side of him. I mean, you're talking about Celtic fans looking forward to seeing some new faces. Obviously, saw Balikwisha, Ibrox, Tanecki. You don't sign wingers for £5 million and don't play them.
Yeah.
So straight away, if they're not on the starting lineup at Kilmarnock on Sunday, you're beginning to wonder why. So you would imagine they'll play, and you would imagine, provided Maeda comes back fine, he'll be through the middle. And Celtic fans will want to see that front three working quickly. It's you probably couldn't think other than Livingston a worse place to go because we all know about it's very difficult to play zippy football on the Rugby Park surface because of what it is. But they're going to have to show something because I hate harking back to the past and hate going on about the old play. But your guys like Abada and that were scoring goals as soon as they walked in the door. Bill Abada scored in his debut. That's what you need to do. You need to come in, bang, and show people what you are straight away. Because Celtic can't afford to carry passengers. The squad's not deep enough to carry passengers at the moment. And having helped them if injuries happen to one or two key players in key positions. Major issues. So the manager didn't seem to feel as though he got enough quality reinforcements, and in terms of depth, I mean, if is it 4 of the players that were signed aren't even in the European squad?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's that telling you about the depth?
It tells you right away who's a Rodgers signing and who's not, perhaps.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know about that, but that's for other people to conject. But you would say it leans towards that, yes. But unless these boys have been seen as they'll be able to make a massive difference in the domestic game, or they'll be able to cover in the domestic game. Because I think Chris Hart made a very good point last week that Celtic might have to prioritise here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've got the squad to go in all domestic competitions and the Europa League. You can't keep picking the same 11. You can't do it. Or you can't keep picking the same 11 or 15, say. The front three, you're supposed to do that. You can't keep playing the same guys for every game up until January comes. So, are they going to prioritize? I mean, Ange Postecoglou prioritised the league when he was trying for it. That's what he said with the Bodo Glimt game, if you remember.
Aye.
Well, he never said it outright, but I think we could all tell from the team selection in the second leg where he was the most importance was being placed, and that was on Easter Road the Sunday afterwards, where I think by chance they actually dropped points anyway. But there might have to be a situation where the Europa League, it depends. The Celtic target the Europa League at the expense of, Postecoglou did that with Tottenham, targeted the Europa League last year and ended up probably losing his job because Tottenham lost so many games in the English Premier League that it was unsustainable for the hierarchy, despite the fact he actually won the Europa League. So I just don't think Celtic can go at all competitions full pelt. Not with the squad, not with the depth of squad that they've got, and that's without any injuries.
Graeme, will we see the old Daizen Maeda again, do you think? It's interesting me. I don't know. I always feel for players. I've got a real sympathy. Just performance drops slightly. It's suddenly they're not like, there's something wrong. Like sometimes it can just be coincidental. For a guy who's obviously given everything over the years, you feel. I think Daizen Maeda's got more in the bank than most players as well. I think people get more sympathy. But the one thing to me, more than any with Maeda's quotes, it really struck me. And the club that's been mentioned more than any is Bruges, isn't it? Like Bruges are the team right now, the identical team in Europe who clubs at Celtic should be following. And there's the quote as well, Ange, I remember after the AGM about you can't fall in love with players and you need to be super aggressive in trading. And this is what this is. When you sell Kuhn, you sell Maeda, you might even sell Alistair Johnson, all in the same summer. And the really good clubs are ready and waiting with 5 or 6 players. That's how you do it. Brendan Rodgers mentioned it as well. They're serial qualifiers for the Champions League. You could take other clubs in Europe, but the interesting thing about Bruges is they haven't won the Belgian League 2 the last 3 years, but they still make it through the non-champions route when they can. They're a very talented team. They've obviously got a real structure in place, and that's where Celtic, like Maeda, that's where they're failing or they're coming up short, and that's where the statement that really annoys supporters that you get guys like, you could lose Alistair Johnson, Maeda, Kuhn. It might sound severe, but the best teams would be waiting with £6 to £8 million signings. That's how it's done. And I feel for Daizen Maeda, he's been sold short by Celtic. It's easy to have a go at Celtic for everything now. They're wrong at this, they're wrong at that. But I feel they've let a player down who's been good to them. This was the optimum time to sell Maeda. Now he had the best season of his career. He moves on with best wishes, and Celtic will get ready-made replacements. But what we ended up doing, you're keeping a player who obviously wanted to try something new. You'll probably need to come up, broker a deal, give us one more push. And I thought Swanee was bang on the fact that there is no guarantee goes in January. January is a terrible window. Once if he rediscovers his form, it's hard to find a player of that quality. The World Cup year is a massive thing as well. Especially, you know how Japan works. It's like he was the darling of the team 4 years ago, but that doesn't mean he will be this time. He's got a lot to think in. But I think as a player, starting the summer, again, that's how you do it. That's how the best teams do it. And the way Celtic seem to buy one or two bodies early, this massive pause, you don't tell anybody. We could have shut the transfer bog down relating Celtic for a few weeks and then just come alive in the last couple. It's not how the best teams do it. It's just not. I think this is a microcosm of the problems. Maeda's in a huff, and probably rightly, and Celtic are just not maximising the value of their best players. And then we're here, so we'll soon find out. But I feel he's a type of player who, I don't feel he's not running any harder. I think he's more economic when he's running anyway. I think he's become more like that since he's moved centrally. But he is a player that I think Celtic fans quickly, a couple of good performances. Not that that shows you where they are. There was no outrage at the player himself over what he said. I think that's the kind of respect he has among supporters. I think Ian Achol won't be up to speed to play number 9 straight away. I think he will. We maybe added threat in the wings. It's interesting. Teneke spoke to a couple of people in Sweden who've watched him. They really like him. There's probably a lot to pay for a player with his profile and how many moves he's had, but he's more like a Jota. Balikwisha is what you probably saw at Ibrox in a better version. He's more Scott Sinclair cutting inside. Pretty sort of like that. Actually, do you know what? That's unfair on Scott. Scott Sinclair is an outrageously good player. What I mean with Balikwisha, he's not going to take you on the outside. I think Teneke will. He might have to play on the right, even though he is a left winger. But that might just be the jolt that Celtic need to get going. And I think Maeda will play a big part in these games to come in the next few weeks, even though what's going on this summer to forget.
The problem, the only slight problem is, I mean, listen, I don't want to go over old ground, but when you're signing wide guys, like two from the same side, or guys who want to come inside, that's fine when your fullback's bombing around the outside here. Kieran Tierney doesn't look as though he's kind of doing that all the time. And Celtic have lost Alistair Johnson in November. So, it's like the guys who did these type of things either aren't available to do them or not doing them as much as what many people thought that they might.
And that was the thing with Rodgers' team the first time, wasn't it? Like Lustig would bomb on and Tierney would wait and vice versa. There's no balance. Yeah. They became a free at the back with one going forward. And you're right with Tierney. It doesn't feel. And Johnson, even if Tierney wasn't giving you that, he would be able to be the Lustig in this team. Yeah. And it becomes that kind of, you're right, the balance is just, and then you factor in a million left wingers, not just a million wingers, the way it's became. Yeah.
There's been other things. I mean, I've heard some stuff about, and I've seen some thick calls come into the hotline. I've heard Callum McGregor's legs have gone and Callum McGregor's done. I mean, I find that utterly preposterous, to be honest with you. I do think, listen, Daniel, we spoke about it in the very first podcast of the season about how important Greg Taylor was coming in and stepping in and making an extra body in there to give Callum McGregor some support. It's not happening now in the new setup. That's the big. He's been left isolated all the time, and that's not been solved yet. And will it be solved? We don't know if the new fullback that's come in, I've forgotten his name. I'm sorry. Sirachi.
Sirachi, Marcel Sirachi.
Marcel Sirachi, forgive me. Sorry. He might be able to do that. And that help, but we don't know. We haven't seen enough of him, or I haven't seen enough of him personally to know if he'll do that. But it's just there's loads of pieces of things that just need to kind of fall into place. It's not just, there's various areas that are not, by that one, one of the, as they say, the eights is having to come back near the ball, as Negrin did. That then leaves you one shot further up the pitch, and then it's a chain reaction of things that. But that's why Brendan Rodgers gets paid a lot of money. They come up with the solutions for that, and that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to find them with the bodies he's now got until January.
Plenty of food for thought. As it's Kill away at the weekend for Celtic, then Partick Thistle away in the League Cup quarter-final, and then Red Star Belgrade on the 24th of September. and we'll be back next week to pour over everything Celtic based. But for now, Swanee, Graeme, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening at home. Hope you can join us next week. Cheers.